this is going to be the beginning of some progress towards what happens on Twitter?
I hope so. What's scary about the whole thing is that the insults didn't hurt me. Unfortunately, I'm used to the insults. That's unfortunate. But what scared me was the injustice of a gang of people jumping against you for such a sick cause. You know, because it's not right. It's not right to gang up on nobody.
That was Leslie Jones talking about the attacks she took on social media this week. It led to Twitter taking action against one of its most controversial users, a Breitbart news editor named Milo Yiannopoulos, after he launched a series of attacks against the comedian and actress currently co-starring in Ghostbusters.
Jones went public with the graphic tweets, many of them racist and sexist, earlier in the week. So is this a turning point in Twitter's effort to weed out the so-called Twitter trolls? Dan Ackerman is a senior editor at CNET. Good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
You have to give her so much credit for not just suffering in all of this in silence. Were people angry just because she did the movie? I don't even know the origin of the anger.
Well, in this particular case, yeah, I think there's a lot of anti-Ghostbusters backlash, and she ended up being the target of a lot of it, largely because she took on people who came at her on Twitter and responded to some of them and retweeted some of the negative comments.
So Twitter suspends one account. I think the Huffington Post wrote that the company was essentially pouring a cup of water on a dumpster fire. In other words, not much. What do you think?
I mean, it's very difficult because you can go kind of two extremes right here. If you go back to the early days of the internet, people used to say, oh, if you have some sexist or racist or anti-Semitic comments on your message board, we can't really police those because then we're responsible for everything and we just don't have the resources to do that. And you go all the way to the other extreme. You can have something like the Chinese government hiring thousands and thousands of people to police every single comment on social media services, on microblog sites, and you can't have that either. So where does Twitter come down in the middle? Where do other social media services? There's not a single magic bullet solution.
You know, in hearing from Leslie Jones earlier in the week, I heard her make some comment about there's a difference between free speech and hate speech. And it does seem like Twitter is somewhere lost in the middle in terms of just how to police.
Well, the problem with Twitter is it's largely an anonymous service. You don't need to give them your real name or your real email address to sign up. If you get suspended or banned...
Which is a big difference from Facebook, where people have to know who you are.
And Facebook is more, if you receive a message from someone, it's because you've admitted them as your friend on that social network. Right. Twitter is much more of a broadcasting medium. And people don't need to know each other.
Dan, do you think?
I think they're different. Facebook is still much more personal. Twitter has evolved over time to become sort of almost a news source, almost an RSS feed, where it's a few people, media, brands, celebrities, broadcasting outward rather than one-to-one communication.
Yiannopoulos has spoken out against Twitter. I want to read his comments because he basically called it a space for Muslim terrorists and Black Lives Matter, saying, quote, there is a systematic campaign against conservative and libertarian points of view on Twitter. It's an interesting comment, but it also begs the same question, like, where is Twitter supposed to draw the line?
Sure, and we were having this conversation about Facebook a few months ago where there was a controversy about what was going in their trending comments section. But remember, these are private services. They have their own terms of service. They can decide who's allowed to use the service and what they're allowed to say on it. It's not the public square.
Right. I mean, you've had a number of celebrities, journalists even, who've quit Twitter because they've been some of these backlashes, these Twitter attacks are just vicious and relentless. I've been in small ones, relatively speaking, but you can get absolutely bombarded.
Oh, of course, and you can report tweets and report users, but a lot of the time, especially if you're not a celebrity or a public figure, it's hard to get the kind of feedback that you need. And people can also use that reporting tool to harass you. If a bunch of people wanted to grief you, they could just start reporting your tweets for no good reason, and then you'd have to defend yourself.
I think everyone would agree there's something about the internet that breeds this kind of behavior. But what is the future? I mean, I know that's a vague question, but is it going to be up to these companies to police comments?
It's definitely up to these companies right now, and going into the future, they're going to have to decide if they're going to be more hands-on or they're going to stay more hands-off. Facebook has taken a more hands-on point of view. I think Twitter is definitely moving in that direction, but it's going to be a very expensive process to get enough manpower to basically police Twitter.
Quickly, Dan, do you think to any extent Twitter's joiners have been limited because people are afraid of this sort of thing?
I think Twitter can be scary for a lot of people, but I also think it's not the same, everything for everybody service that Facebook is, and it never will be.
All right, Dan Ackerman, thank you so much.
Thank you.